Hi Warren, I just watched your video on the 9/11 truth movement, and even though I'll admit I had to turn the volume down in order to watch the video, I think you actually brought up some really valid points. The first thing is that I think it's true that no one, I mean, as you say, no one can keep a secret in the sense that I think what they do when, certain things happen is they don't actually worry about the information getting out, because the thing is, when certain things happen like that, what really happened, I mean, there's that many people, talking about other theories, that what really happened basically just gets lost sort of in the background noise. So, I mean, you'll have like the true account of what happened sort of thing, and then you might have 5, 10, 15, 20, 50, 100, however many other theories sort of all surrounding it. And the other thing is that because a lot of the time the truth to something is actually a lot more simple than, some of these sort of really whacked out conspiracy theories that people have got, that the truth is actually less popular than a conspiracy theory. So people might have a really truthful account of, say, the assassination of Kennedy, right? But that might get rejected because people actually like some of the conspiracy theories more, if that makes sense. They're more interesting. They're more, yeah. Anyway, also, as to whether or not it was an inside job, do I think September the 11th was an inside job? To be honest, I don't really feel that I know exactly who was entirely responsible for it. One of the main issues that I actually had with it, pretty much straight away, was my father and I were actually watching Fox News at the time. We actually had Foxtel over here back then. The Fox network is actually owned by Rupert Murdoch, who is an Australian. So we actually get a cable Fox service over here, or we can get it. I don't have it anymore. But yeah, so we were actually watching Fox News more or less as it was happening. And the thing that I never really understood was, and this always really bothered me, is that they supposedly claimed that they weren't able to guard against it, weren't able to defend against it, didn't see it coming, and yet supposedly as the planes were actually flying into the towers, they were already saying, oh yeah, we know who's responsible for this, it's Osama bin Laden. To me, it makes absolutely no sense that on the one hand they're supposedly caught completely blindsided by it, and yet on the other hand they immediately know who it is. Right? I think there's something wrong with that. The other thing is, and this is something that I've always found interesting, I'm not going to try and say at all, I don't feel, that the planes didn't crash into the towers. I think it's more or less an accepted thing that they did, or at least for me it is. But one thing that I was reading that was interesting was about the melting temperature of steel. And I don't have the link on me at the moment, but after I finish this I'll possibly put it in, if I can find it. And what it basically claimed was, I think they had it was a guy, I think it was actually a guy with a PhD in metallurgy they basically had talking about it. And he was basically saying that jet fuel on its own cannot melt steel to the degree that it basically would have had to have been melted in order to bring the buildings down. And he actually said that there was also some footage where the bulldozers and that were digging the wreckage up sort of apparently close to a month afterwards. And supposedly some of the wreckage down the bottom was still actually sort of semi-molten and sort of glowing, really, really hot. And yeah, from what he said, there would be no way known that that jet fuel on its own would be able to do that. However, he did mention a particular chemical explosive called thermate, which he said produced results or could have produced results which actually in a number of ways, including the glowing heat of the metal, was, a number of the details were consistent with what a thermate explosion looks like, with what a thermate detonation looks like. So he believed himself, anyway, I think, that although, the planes did crash into the towers, and there was a lot of fuel, that the jet fuel on its own would not have been able to bring the towers down, and so therefore there would have had to have been some sort of secondary explosions of some kind, basically to take it the rest of the way. And there also were some firefighters, I can remember, they interviewed some firefighters who said that more or less at the same time as the planes were hitting the buildings, they said they saw and heard some explosions actually closer to the base of the buildings, which again would be consistent with the controlled demolition theory. So, in my own mind, I'm not saying that it was definitely an inside job in that sense. I'm not saying I feel I know exactly who was responsible for it. And obviously, the planes did hit the buildings, I'm not refuting that, but my own belief is that the planes did have some help. Not that the planes didn't hit, but that there was some other stuff that happened as well. I don't know how that got there. I don't know who was responsible for putting that there, and I'm not going to try and draw any hard conclusions about that myself, but based on my own reading, it wasn't, even though the planes did hit, it wasn't the planes on their own, if that makes sense, that brought the towers down. Beyond that, I don't really feel that I can make any hard conclusions. But I don't believe that the planes on their own basically did it. Again, not saying it was an inside job necessarily, not saying that Bush was directly responsible for it. All I am saying is that even though the planes hit, I don't believe that they did it on their own. I don't believe that they would have been capable of doing it on their own. Anyway, that's basically it.